It's time to check in on Christy Noem again. I think the last time we talked about her, she was failing to understand what habeas corpus was. So Politico reports, Christy Noem on Sunday stated that President Trump's deployment of the National Guard saved Los Angeles from certain destruction. Quote, LA wouldn't be standing today if President Trump hadn't taken action then. That city would have burned down if left to the devices of the mayor and the governor of that state, Noem told CBS's Ed O'Keefe on Face the Nation. Quote, so the citizens who live there, the small business owners in downtown LA, they're thankful that President Trump came in with federal law enforcement officers and helped support keeping those streets open, keep their homes and businesses from burning down, and made sure the law and order was restored. Well, on the contrary, Ms. Noem, I've not met anyone from LA who has said that they're grateful that President Trump came in and brought the federal law enforcement agents there. Yet nobody's grateful for this. Noem's comments come as the White House continues to weigh federalizing troops in other American cities in the name of fighting crime. That's correct. Trump is looking at Chicago next. Brandon Johnson is bracing for that. He's also looking at New York City next. Her statements drew a divisive rebuke from California Governor Gavin Newsom. So he said, ha 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 ha, on X, alongside a recording of Noem's talk with O'Keefe. Yeah, so this is the typical Newsom thing, or at least, it's more of the new Newsom thing, I should say, where he's kind of mimicking Trump and just being a little more irreverent, a little spicy, a little irreverent, not too on the nose, not too hyperbolic, but pretty hyperbolic for a Democrat at least. So California leaders, including Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, slammed the president's decision to send the National Guard to LA amid protests over the White House's deportation agenda in June. Yup. Still, Noem doubled down when challenged by O'Keefe to repeat her claim, quote, so many of those homes and businesses that were in downtown and in those areas were dealing with riots and violence, and coming in and bringing those federal law enforcement officers in was incredibly important to keeping peace. And so we are grateful President Trump was willing to send resources and people in order to enforce the law. Trump has next vowed to send the National Guard to Chicago, which Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker told O'Keefe would constitute an invasion with U.S. troops. Yeah, it does really seem like it just amounts to that, doesn't it? Just an invasion of your own country, an invasion of a city within your own country. Totally ridiculous, totally barbaric. Quote, I'd tell Noem that what she's doing is inflaming passions and causing disruption that doesn't need to be caused, Pritzker said. We have people that have lived, yes, in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago for decades, working here, paying taxes. They're law-abiding members of our communities, friends, neighbors, and why are we arresting them? Why are we making them disappear? Brandon Johnson, Chicago's mayor, on Saturday issued an executive order attempting to ward off Trump's National Guard threat, and Pritzker hinted at upcoming court battles if the White House goes through with its plans. So what Noem said here, this is a typical example of, the Republicans love to brag about stuff that shouldn't be bragged about, but then sometimes they do brag about stuff that probably should be bragged about, like Trump sending out a stimulus check. He put his name on it. So people during the COVID pandemic, they got this check in the mail that had President Donald J. Trump's name on it. And even though he lost the election, it was a good move that probably helped, give him something of a fighting chance in the 2020 election and kept his approval rating from tanking too bad during the pandemic. He was mishandling the pandemic in other ways, but that was a smart move on his part. Whereas Democrats are a little more reluctant to brag about good things they do, and when they do brag, they're typically not very hyperbolic. But Republicans love to infuse their boasts with hyperbole. Oh, LA would not be standing here if Trump had not brought the federal law enforcement agency in. Oh, this is so great. Like, okay, then what would have happened? I mean, the thing is, it's ultimately unfalsifiable, because the thing is, he hasn't brought the troops in he did bring law enforcement in anyhow. And he hasn't brought law enforcement into Chicago or New York, and they're doing fine. They're not burning to the ground. They're still intact. So Christy Noem obviously here is just bluffing. She's capping, as some of the kids say at times. This is total cap from Christy Noem. But it also is like, it's the type of thing that authoritarian regimes say. I'm sorry to say, this God complex of like, oh yeah, the president with the hand of God sent the law enforcement in, and they saved the whole city from rioting, and it wouldn't be here without him. So like telling them to be grateful, get down on your knees and pray and thank President Trump for saving your city, Karen Bass, and Gavin Newsom, get on your knees and thank President Trump for saving your city. And Newsom's responding by just going, ha 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 ha, because really it does deserve to be laughed at, but it also shows, the authoritarian nature of this regime. this tendency to just be like, hey, no, we're the ones keeping the country intact. We alone fix all the problems here. Without us, the whole country, these cities, they would be going to hell in a handbasket. This really self-righteous attitude of this administration is repulsive, frankly. Let me know what you think in the comments below about LA. Like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you in my next video.